Testing one, two, testing one, two. Mic check, one, two. Mic check, one, two. We have approximately 1 minute left before we go live. We're going to delve in. I'm going to dive into a very interesting topic. I know that many of us on a day to day are constantly coming up, under attack, on a day to day. And I'm just here to let you know that you should not or you shouldn't be discouraged because it comes with the territory. Many may look at it as being a form of insanity, that, people can be so cruel, but this is just the nature of human beings, or these are just the tactics of lower vibrational beings. There's no need for you to feel, discouraged, like I said, or there shouldn't be a hardening of the heart of any form. You just gotta stay protected. You have to have a higher power. You have to have a source of strength, that of purity, something that is definitely for sure, something that is, for certain, having a strong belief system, you know. Uh, Many of us are looking for a spiritual awakening, and it is possible. That's why I'm here, so I can bring forth the word, so I can bring forth inspiration, so I can bring forth motivation, all of these wonderful things within your life. And some of these things that you already possess, but you just have not been awakened or awakened to this or to these facts. And I'm just here to give you a little push. Just last week, I shared some of my very own personal experiences in efforts and in hopes of inspiring someone else. Like I said, I'm never ashamed to express, how I feel about a particular thing and not be overly emotional. And nor am I ashamed to share my personal experiences because that's what makes me the truth. That's what makes you the truth. That's what makes us the truth. That's what makes us authentic. There's no fabrication with this. You see what I'm saying? Now, many people can play a role for so long, rather it be based on appearance or rather it be based on, their character, their characteristic traits. In due time, many, just as they have been in the past, is still a current thing. Many will be exposed for who they truly are. And it's such a sad thing for a person to be exposed, not being truthful. Forget about being truthful with anyone else in society, but lacking integrity, within self, the truth that dwells within self, to let yourself down overall. Everything else is just a fad or a facade, you know, but to not be truthful and to not be genuine with yourself, there's a problem there, you know. And I just encourage you to stay, or remain authentic, because it's much needed. It is much needed, And like I said, I'm never afraid to share my personal experiences with anyone because I am the truth. I stand for truth. You know what I mean? Many may like it and many may not. That's fine. And anything that I bring to you and anything that I present to you, in no shape or form do I desire to manipulate what I'm reading or what I'm sharing with you in a way that it's suitable for self. You know what I mean? Because everything that I'm reading to you, it applies to me as well. And one thing about the wrath of God, when you go up against the grain, now you can try him and you can play with him as much as you want because he gave us free will. Now, you can do whatever you feel you want to do by that being said, or with that being said, because we all have free will. Now, when you know better and you choose not to do better, now that's when God comes in because you know better. But you're going to test me, you're going to try me anyway because I gave you that kind of freedom. I gave you that kind of leeway, you know, even room to make error, but to take advantage of me. Now I'm stepping in and I don't mind kicking you in the behind when I have to. And that, these things or these rules, you know, or these scriptures or this text or context, it applies to me as well. I'm not sharing anything in any particular way so that it's soothing to my ego. No, these very words that I speak, they apply to me as well. These very words that I speak, they apply to me as well. There's nothing, it has absolutely nothing or anything to do with fairness when it comes to God. It's either right or it's either wrong. Same thing with society. It's either right or it's either wrong. You know what I mean? You have the choice in the matter. You have the choice in the matter to do what's right or to do what's wrong. You know what I mean? No one's here to point the finger or any of that. You know what I mean? We're all adults. Well, most of us that's listening, you know, after the age of 12 years old, you are now responsible for your actions, right? That's what it says in the scripture, you know? So now that you know better, just like my granny used to say, you do better, and I'm not trying to manipulate what I'm speaking, like I said, in any way that it's soothing to my ego or soothing to uh my way of life and the way that I think, you know what I mean? And it's not to talk down or look down on anybody. It's not to make, not to create any kind of discomfort. It is what it is, you know? The word of the true and living God, it is what it is. And I myself, I don't do everything right. You know what I'm saying? It's not that I'm so great and that I don't make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? It's not that I live with no fault at all because I do. And I try constantly to correct my faults and to correct my wrongs. You know what I mean? And sometimes we can do things in a way that we don't realize that what we're doing is wrong or what we're doing is wrong. That's why it takes people like me and several others not to forget, never to forget God, to bring it to our remembrance or to bring it to our remembrance, you know, having a spirit of discernment so that we can make the proper adjustments to life, or we can make the proper change to life. You know what I mean? Rather it's us on a personal level, or level, I'm sorry, rather it's a personal level, or a spiritual level, you know, just having that contact with God in a way that he leads us in nearly in almost everything we do on a day to day, having a spirit of discernment, you know, because I have fought, that's for sure. I have fought, that's for sure. And some things I do, and I know better. But God is still working on me. You know, He is a forgiving God too. But I don't take advantage of the fact knowing that because He's a forgiving God, He has to be lenient or show some form of lenience or leniency towards me for what I've done or what I'm currently doing. You know what I mean? There has to be some form of personal accountability for our actions, right? So, with that being said, let's get right into it, okay? Let's get right into it. When the wicked rise up against me, or when the wicked rise up against you. Psalm 27 and 2. The Bible is filled with powerful verses that offer encouragement, strength, and protection in times of trouble. One of the most striking and deeply symbolic passages is found in Psalm 27:2. When the wicked, even mine enemies, and my foes came upon me to eat up my flesh, they what? They stumbled and fell. This verse speaks of divine protection against enemies who seek to destroy us. Now, in this YouTube live, we will explore the meaning of historical context of Psalm 27:2, the spiritual significance of enemies stumbling and falling, how this verse applies to our modern lives, Bible verses with similar themes of divine protection, also practical ways to trust God when facing adversaries. Now, when I say adversaries, who are your adversaries? Because I'm going to tell you something right now, and many may not like or appreciate what I'm saying. Sometimes we ourselves can be our very worst enemy. Did you hear that? We ourselves can be our very worst enemy, being the adversary. When we feel sometimes that everything and everybody is fighting us. No, it's just you, sir. No, it's just you, ma'am. You're getting in the way of yourself. You're falling over yourself. You're tripping over yourself. You're stumbling over yourself. That stumbling block that you so desire to remove, it's you. It's nobody else. You just feel that it's someone else. But in actuality, it's you. And for multiple days, multiple months, multiple years, it's always been you. But we all look for somebody to blame. But see, not only that, many of us are totally and completely unaware that we are our own worst enemy, man. Can you dig that? Can you catch that? Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. Okay? Now, let's get started. Psalm 27 is traditionally attributed to King David. Now, I'm going to go into more in depth research and details about this, okay? And where it all came from, right? Okay. Psalm 27 is traditionally attributed to King David, who lived around the 10th century BCE. However, if you're asking about a similar text that predates the Bible, there's no direct equivalent. Before the biblical Psalms, ancient civilizations such as, listen to me now, the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Canaanites composed hymns, prayers, and laments to their gods. Now, this is just to give you a breakdown. First exhibit, the first exhibit or the first example, Sumerian hymns, 2100 BCE, poems praising deities like Inanna, Ishtar, and Enlil, which express trust in divine protection. Egyptian hymns to the sun god Ra. Now, in a previous video or live, I spoke about these same characters or these same gods or these same beings, right? Now, Egyptian hymns to the sun god Ra, 2000 BCE, similar in theme to Psalm 27, emphasizing divine light and guidance. Okay? Agaritic texts, Canaanite, 1400 BCE. These contain prayers to gods like Baal and El, some resembling biblical psalms in poetic structure. If you're looking for a specific pre biblical source that might have influenced Psalm 27, here we go. The hymns to Shamash, the Mesopotamian sun god, or the great hymn to the Aten from Egypt, share themes of divine protection and light. Okay, now let's go here. The meaning and historical context of Psalm 27:2. So, who wrote Psalm 27? Psalm 27 was written by King David, one of the most significant figures in the Bible. David was a warrior, and so are you, a shepherd, and so are you, and a king chosen by God, and so are you. If you would just answer the call, you will then be awakened and know this. Now, his life was filled with battles. Do you hear that? Come on now. We get into it. Are you ready? His life was filled with battles, both physical and spiritual. He faced many enemies, including King Saul, who sought to kill him out of jealousy, and later his own son, Absalom, who betrayed him. Ain't that something? That's that pressure right there. That's that hurt right there. Okay? Your own son, right? But it happens in real life. Okay? Now, breaking down Psalm 27:2. When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me. David refers David refers to those who sought his destruction, whether through physical attack, betrayal, or false accusations. How many of you have had people to despise you? Hmm? Creating false narratives, having people and others under false pretenses, scandalizing your name, right? Welcome to what we call, or what we would call, life. Okay? Now, let's continue. The phrase came upon me suggests an aggressive attempt to harm him. But why? Let's continue. To eat up my flesh. This phrase is metaphorical, meaning that his enemies were intent on completely destroying him. This phrase is metaphorical, meaning that his enemies were intent on completely destroying him, right? Completely destroying him, right? Okay. In biblical times, enemies were often described as what? Wild beasts. Wild beasts. That's what they were described as now. In biblical times, enemies were often described as wild beasts. Psalm 22:13, seeking to devour their prey. This imagery reflects the severity of the attacks David faced. They stumbled and fell. Despite their efforts, David's enemies failed. This represents divine intervention where God causes the plans of the wicked to collapse. The phrase suggests that those who come against God's people will ultimately be defeated. Psalm 27:2. In the context of David's life, throughout David's life, he faced many enemies, including, now, this is a list of all of the challenges and all of the people that he faced and conquered, right? And this is for, multiple reasons. For multiple reasons, man. You know, just like, not to get off the topic, but just like a song that the artist Big Crit he produced and released, and there was a phrase or there was a line in a song that he wrote, and he mentioned that people would want to hurt you or harm you just for being happy and smiling. That's on the Forever is a Mighty Long Time record. And it's so true. People want to hurt you and do harm to you just for being happy and smiling. And this is just a breakdown of various issues that King David faced and the enemies that he had, during the course of his lifetime, for various reasons. You know, I'm going to get more in depth. I'm going to go more in depth, with this right here, right now. So you'll have a brief summary of some of the things that, or some of the challenges that he was faced with and that he had to overcome, right? Number one on the list, King Saul. Many of you may know the story, and many of you may not. So I'm going to go ahead and briefly outline some of the challenges that he faced right now. Number one, being King Saul. Out of jealousy, Saul pursued David to kill him. First Samuel 19, 1 through 2. Yet every time Saul tried, God protected David. Number two, Philistine armies. David fought many battles, including the famous defeat of Goliath. That's a very popular one story, right? David and Goliath, slaying him with a stone and a sling, right? Number one, or First Samuel or verse 17. I'm sorry. Now the next one, betrayal by friends and family. Won't they do it? Betrayal by friends and family. And it's crazy because those closest to you will do the most hurt or do the most damage, man. And this is something that you would least expect. You wouldn't expect a family member or a friend to want to do harm to you. And just like in the hip hop community right now, and it's been going on for multiple years, you know, I can't see myself growing up with someone. We were in diapers together. Your granny or your auntie or your family, they embraced me As a child, we grew up together from diapers. We were in diapers and huggies and pull ups together. And you finally find success coming from the extremes that we came from. And I become so envious and so filled with greed that I want to kill you and take you out. It's what we call the back door today, being backdoored by a loved one or by a friend. What kind of loyalty is that? When y'all came up, y'all was snot nosed. Y'all came up in huggies together and pull ups. Like I said, your granny used to watch me and babysit me. We used to do slumber parties, and I used to spend the night over your crib as kids, all the way up into adulthood. Now we young adults, and I become insanely jealous. I become so enraged with your success or your newfound success. Instead of being supportive, I come and take you out. And it's the closest ones to you, family and friends. You would never think that you would be vulnerable to a situation as such. But I'm going to tell you something. They hide it very well. They disguise it very well. For the simple fact, they're your family. And they can look you right in your eyes and tell you how much they love you and how much they care for you and do great harm to you for many reasons. And some reasons you'll never know, but it's true. They'll look you right in your eyes and tell you how much you mean to them and betray you just like a stranger in the streets. Betrayal by friends and family. Even David's son, as we spoke of, Absalom Absalom, turned against him. 2 Samuel 15. Each time David saw God's hand protecting him, making his enemies stumble and fall. The spiritual significance of enemies stumbling and falling. Psalm 27:2 is not just about David's personal struggles, it applies to all believers who face opposition. Here's what this verse teaches us spiritually. Number one, God's protection is real. You better believe it. Did you hear that? God's protection is real. Many don't believe it, but it is, man. It is. God is relentless. You hear me? God is relentless, man. Just like I heard Nino Brown say, you know what I mean? He's undefeated, man. God Almighty is undefeated. If you believe he's undefeated, man, talking about a true champion, right? And his protection is real. Do you hear me? Talk about a phenomenon. God's protection is real, right? No matter how strong or numerous our enemies are, they cannot prevail against God's power. Psalm 91:7 states, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Number two, evil plans will not succeed. The wicked may plot against God's people, but their plans will ultimately fail. Isaiah 54:17 affirms, this is a popular one, this is a good one, and this is a true one. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Number three, trusting God in times of trouble. Do you trust him or do you just give in? You just throw the towel in. I can't do this. This too hard, man. This is too difficult, man. I can't go through with, I can't go through with this right here. I can't go through with it. It's too difficult. It's too hard. I want to give up. I want to surrender, to whatever it is that's constantly or currently going on in my life. I just can't deal with it, man. I can't deal with it. I can't get with the program, man. You know, I'm lacking faith. I'm lacking trust in God Almighty. Man, I'm done with this, man. I can't go on with this, man. It's too hard, man. They said I can't do this. They said I won't be that. You gonna actually believe it? They said I'm this. They said I'm that. They said I'll never amount to anything. You know what I mean? Huh? Where's your God? They asked me, where's your God at? Where's your God? You talk about him so much. Where's your God at? Huh? You living in the marshlands, man. You know what I mean? You you rolling around in slop, man. You know what I mean? With the hogs, man. You know what I'm saying? You a shepherd boy, man. You know what I mean? You're a shepherd's boy. You broke, you poor, man. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got nothing, man. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna never have nothing, man. You're a failure. You know what I mean? So what do you do? Huh? What do you do? Now, this is what I'm gonna say, not to offend anybody, but this is what I will say. If you aren't planning or if you aren't looking forward to fulfill the dynasty or to fulfill the plans of the Most High God, right? If you aren't willing to step up to the bat and take care of your responsibility, having full accountability or taking full accountability for your actions in the process of what God told you to do, or during the process of what God told you to do, or what He sent you here to do, step out of the way. Give up now, man. You know what I mean? Save yourself the trouble. Save yourself, you know what I mean? Further hardship. You know what I'm saying? Because the hardship that you experiencing now, it comes with the territory, man. You know what I'm saying? He'll never put more on you than you can bear. You know what I'm saying? He chose you. He chose you. God chose you for this particular task. Now, you said, man, I'm worn, man, I'm tired, I'm so sick of this. You know what I mean? This ain't supposed to be life. But you aren't average, man. You dig what I'm saying? You aren't average. You see, he felt that God felt or feels that your skin is tough enough to get it done. That's why he chose you. Now ain't the time for you to crumble. If you feel the need to, get out of the way. Just get out of the way, man, so he can assign that particular duty or assignment to somebody else. You know what I mean? Because you're weak. You know what I mean? God only wants his strongest on the front line, man. God needs his strongest warriors on the front line. And if you've been chosen by God, ain't nothing about it gonna be easy. Do you hit me? It wasn't easy for him. What make you think that it's gonna be easy for you? You talking about a man, or we talking about a man that healed the sick, raised the dead, fed 5,000, you know what I'm saying? With two fish and five loaves of bread. You know what I'm saying? Come on, this is the guy we talking about. When all he was trying to bring, all he wanted was peace for the land. He had a solution to make things better. They didn't see it that way. You got to think about it too. You got to think about it too. You have a man that's walking the land, he healing the sick and raising people from the dead. People losing money, man. Morticians losing money. The doctors, hospitals, or people that nurse the people back, they losing money with this guy. You know what I mean? Think about it. And what he was doing was a great thing. The same people, the very people that he fed, man, not very long thereafter, they had him on Calvary's cross, man, on Calvary, man, with a murderer and a thief. You know what I'm saying? They put him on display for the whole world to see. This a good man right here. This a good man. But this is how they felt about him, man. And by you representing him or you believing his word to be true, and all you got to be is a good human being, man. They gonna crucify you too. They gonna crucify you, rather it be verbally or if it be in their actions. There doesn't have to be a literal death. You know what I'm saying? But the mind and the ways of a cruel person or a wicked person, there's no room for nothing like you. There's no room for nobody like you. We don't want to change. And it's not that you forcing nobody to change. You know what I mean? This is just what you see fit for your life, being a good human being or trying to be the best person that you can be. And sometimes people have an issue with the elevation and the growth and development, the journey overall, because they don't want to change. They have no clue of what change is and they don't want to. They feel their life is just fine the way that it is for them. And you ain't pressuring nobody to change. If they don't want to, that's fine. But just like my father used to say, as for me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. You know what I mean? As for me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. You dig what I'm saying? So if you feel that you can't take on the enormous amount of responsibility that God has given you, pass the baton to somebody else, man. You're weak. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. That's just what it is. When God has everything, he possesses everything, you feel that you aren't capable enough to fulfill the job assignment or the duty that the Most High God gave to you. Move out of the way. You wasting time. You wasting our time. Get out of the way because that comes with it, man. It comes with it. It don't feel good all the time. You know what I'm saying? But it comes with it, man. It comes with it. Yeah, it's painful. True indeed. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, true indeed. Like I said, man, people ain't gonna agree with you all the time. People gonna be hateful towards you and don't even know you. People are gonna say some very bad things about you. People are gonna try to tarnish your image, tarnish, you know what I'm saying, your character, make you look bad, and you know what I'm saying? Hey man, that come with it, man. But guess what? Each and every one of them that speak against you, they falling off one by one. And sometimes in number, you did. So you got to be careful. They got to be careful of how they put their tongue on a child of God, man. And if you ain't a child of God, that's just how the universe works. When you're a good human being, you try to be the best person that you can be. That's how the universe works. And that's how God created it because he is the owner of it. He is the creator of it. He is executor. You know what I mean? So now that his son betrays him, we're getting into trusting God in times of trouble, right? When we face difficulties, fear and doubt can rise or arise. But Psalm 27:1 reminds us, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? What? Ooh, ooh, that's a good one. What? And they look at you like you're crazy because you every day you got your head up high, no matter what it is you're going through or experiencing. You got a positive attitude. Like I said in a previous video, I was out and about, didn't have anywhere to go. You know what I'm saying? I was clean shaven. You know what I mean? Nobody really knew exactly what it was I was going through. But even then, in my hardship, you know what I mean? I was talking about the goodness and the mercy of God, the Most High. Even when I was a youngster and I was on them street corners or whatever, doing what it was I was doing as an adolescent, because I started pretty young. You know what I mean? I was 12, 13. I was already in the game. You see what I'm saying? So now, with that being said, even as an adult, you know what I'm saying? Same thing applied. I still talked about the goodness and the mercy of the Most High God. You know what I mean? And most of the guys, believe it or not, most of the guys that were out there on them corners and on them blocks, you know what I'm saying? They could relate to it. You know what I'm saying? Because chances are, okay, I'm a street pharmacist, but at the same time, I live with my granny. And guess what? Granny going to church. You know what I'm saying? Granny going to church. And sometimes they going too. Many of them, they've been because you see them out in the street don't mean that they don't have a spiritual connection or they don't have a higher power. That's how most of them stayed out of the joint. That's how many of them stayed out of jail because it was God's protection. It was his provision that kept them out of bondage and being incarcerated. You know what I'm saying? But I've never been ashamed of God. Never, no matter what I was doing, rather it was with women or whatever. You know what I'm saying? One thing about it, even when it comes down to a particular female that I deal with, you know what I mean? Now, when it comes to guidance and instruction, hey, listen, I have no room for toxicity. You know what I mean? We're a team. We're together for a reason, and I'm gonna show you why I'm in your life. You see what I'm saying? I'm gonna show you why I'm here. There's a better way for you to live. There's a better way for me to live. You know what I'm saying? And we'll never get there if we're surrounded by so much chaos. You see what I'm saying? You're surrounded by chaos. So I'm here to have a positive impact or influence on your life. And I'm not ashamed of that either. Now, if you choose not to deal with me, that's fine. But this is just what it is. I'm not forcing religion on you or anything because I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. You see what I'm saying? I'm not religious. I'm a spiritual person. You know what I mean? So No matter what it was I was doing, and no matter what it is I'm doing, I always bring that to the forefront. Like I said, even facing hardship, trying times, you know what I mean? I don't forget about God. Never have. Never will. Never will. Because in the midst of it all, He's the solution. He's my compass. He's guiding me through it all. He's navigating me through all of it. You know what I'm saying? He's navigating me through all of it. And without him, I wouldn't have any direction. I wouldn't have any divine instruction, any divine guidance to get me to the next, the next level, or to get me to my destination. And of course, you're going to have rumble strips, you're going to have speed bumps, you're going to have obstacles. That all comes with it. I know it's hard for many to fathom, but it's that's just what it is. When you have faith that is so great, when you understand or you overstand or understand that the Lord is your light and your salvation, whom shall I fear? What more needs to be said? What more needs to be said? Right? Now, we're getting into the next one. And this is so very true. Spiritual warfare is real. What is what? It's real, man. Spiritual warfare is real. The phrase came upon me to eat up my flesh reminds us that our struggle is often spiritual, not just physical. What did I say before we even got started, before we began? What exactly did I say? We feel that many obstacles are placed before us by other people or because of other people, when in actuality, we're a hindrance to self. We stumble over ourselves. Why? I just said it. Because we allow the carnal aspect, or we allow the carnal to get in the way of the spiritual. And when there's a disconnect of the carnal to the spiritual, that's where all the trouble happens. That's where all the mistakes or all the mishaps happen because we aren't allowing the spirit to lead us. We're allowing the carnal, being the flesh, to lead us when it has absolutely no direction at all, without a plug, without a spiritual parent, without the Wi-Fi connection. You dig what I'm saying? Without the spiritual connection, the body is just gonna do what the body is naturally created to do. And what is that? Anything that it can access, rather it be addiction to drugs, sexual addiction, it could be work. The body is going to do naturally what it's going to do without a connection to God or a higher power or a power source because that's all it knows to do. The mind is the only thing that keeps it going. And whatever the brain signals the body to do, if there's no filter being the spirit, it'll never be filtered out. That body is going to do the first thing that comes to mind. Because why? That's just what the body is created to do. Whatever the mind signals the body to do. And the emotions of that thing, of that body, or the signal from the mind to the body is what it knows. or what it can identify with until you pair the mind to the spirit, or you have a connection to the Wi-Fi, being the spirit, right? Ephesians 6:12 teaches that our fight is against spiritual forces of darkness. And that's very true. The principalities of the air, right? Applying Psalm 27:2 to modern life. The enemies David faced were physical, but in today's world, our enemies can take many forms. Check this out. Dealing with personal attacks. Have you ever faced false accusations or been betrayed by someone close? Psalms 27:2 reminds us that those who seek to harm us will not succeed when we trust in God. Number two, overcoming fear and anxiety. Fear is one of the biggest enemies people face today. What is it? Fear. Fear. What does that spell? Fear. Number one, fear is one of the biggest enemies people face today. This verse reassures us that God is in control, even when things seem uncertain. hmm What? Come on now. Spiritual warfare and attacks from the enemy. Satan seeks to destroy believers. First Peter 5 and 8. But God provides divine protection. By standing firm in faith and prayer, we can overcome. Number four, facing challenges in career and life. Sometimes obstacles in business, career, or personal growth feel like enemies coming against us. Very true. Psalm 27:2 encourages us to trust that God will remove barriers in His timing, not your timing, not my timing, not our timing, but in God's timing. Why? Because it's perfect, right? Other Bible verses about God defeating enemies. The Bible is filled with verses about God's protection. Here are some powerful ones. Psalms 91, 3 and 4. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler. This is a good one. And from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thy trust. Another, Deuteronomy 28 and 7. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee seven ways. Isaiah 41:10. Fear thy not, or fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. There's something about that right hand and righteousness. There's something about that right hand, especially when it's the hand of God. You hear me? Now, how to trust God when facing adversaries. If you're struggling with changes, here are practical steps to trust God. Number one, pray for protection. Just as David prayed for deliverance, ask God to fight for you. Example prayer: Lord, I trust you to make my enemies stumble and fall. Be my shield and my defender. All you got to do is ask. Number two, stand on God's promises. Memorize verses like Psalm 27:2, Psalm 91, and Isaiah 54:17 to strengthen your faith. Walk in faith, not fear. Fear is the weapon. You hear this? Come on now. Come on. Hey, man, it's getting real now. Fear is the weapon of the enemy. What do? I'll tell you. Replace it with faith in God's power. No other power. No other power. You hear me? No other power. You hear me? Replace it with faith. Replace it with faith. Replace it with what? Faith in what? God's power. Number four, forgive. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I see the word. I haven't even I haven't even begun to continue. But just this word alone, this is a strong word. You know what I mean? The turn the other cheek situation. And, you know, love and the oil of God is expensive. Now, the scripture says to forgive, right? That's not so easy for some of us to do, especially when you've run out of cheeks, you know? I'm just being for real. This is just my theory on it. The Bible says to turn the other cheek and, you've been smitten or you, no. Now, if not to get off topic, but if you put your hands on me, I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm not turning the other cheek. I'm not forgiving you. None of that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that all of that is canceled out. You know what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to me, excuse me. Now, to forgive, that's a strong word. And to me, I feel it depends on what a person has done to you, you know, to forgive, and then my father used to say, yeah, the Bible says to forgive, but it didn't say that I had to forget. You know what I'm saying? Because if I forget, they'll do the same thing they did to me again, if not worse. So if you forgive, you don't have to forget. You know what I'm saying? Some people say forgive and forget. I'm not forgetting. That's what my father used to tell me and used to say. I'm not forgetting because that gives them room and availability, to do something just as trifling as they did before, or just as treacherous as they did to me before. So I'm not going to forget. I might forgive, and that might take a little while too. But if I forgive, I never forget. You know what I mean? So, number four, forgive and let God handle it. Now, I agree with that. I agree with that. You know what I mean? Now, instead of seeking revenge, which, you know, I've often felt, and I mean on a frequent basis, instead of seeking revenge, allow God to bring justice. Romans 12:19 says, vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. And it's true. It's true. And in most cases, what God does in a particular situation, you couldn't top it. You couldn't top it. No matter how infuriated you are, no matter how disrespected you feel or felt, no matter what level of disloyalty someone has given you or shown or displayed to you, you know, no matter how low down and dirty, scandalous somebody's been, you know, the vengeance of the Lord is a vengeance that's hard to compete with. And that's just the truth, man. You might not see it, you might not feel it. And in some cases, you don't have to see it because God don't need you in his business. You know what I mean? God don't need you in his business. He don't need you to tell him what to do. You know, you just tell him what's bothering you, what the issue is, what they've done, to persecute you, or what they've done to come up against you, and he'll do the rest. And like I said, what he's going to do or what he has done, you know, there's no comparison. You aren't big enough. You aren't strong enough. You know, your capabilities are limited. See, when it comes to God, it's the spiritual and the physical thing. You see what I'm saying? You can get physical, true indeed, but chances are, when listen, when God is in the midst of it all, it's easy. You hear about it on the news, or you see it, or you hear about it through the grapevine. And guess what? You had absolutely nothing to do with it because that's just how God works. You know what I mean? No need of getting yourself in a rut, uh, possibly doing jail time. You know what I mean? And if not jail time, even worse. You know what I'm saying? How you pushing daisies somewhere. You know what I'm saying? God is the most dangerous weapon that you could ever have when you believe, because he certainly believes in you. If you're his child and you claim to be his child, you know, he is going to protect you at all costs. At all costs, man, because he loves you that much. He cares about you that much that all you have to do is cry out to him. He'll give you a solution, he'll give you a strategy. You know what I mean? But one thing for sure, he will conquer your enemies. If he said it, you better believe it. He will conquer all of your enemies, and he will bring each and every one of them to their knees. Believe that now. It might not be today, might not be tomorrow, might not be next month, might not be next year, but you better believe he is formulating a plan to execute, because they all have to pay for what they've done to you, especially if it was done unjustly. They all, every last one of them, man, I'm telling you now, every last one of them have to. And see, this is another thing. People have a tendency of playing with God. See what I'm saying? They be playing, but see, God ain't playing with them. See, they might think that you something to play with, but they don't understand the being within you. They don't understand who you belong to. So they look at you and they feel like you something to play with. You might think that I'm something to play with, but the power that I possess certainly isn't. That's for sure. The God that I serve ain't nothing to play with. And I don't have to tell you that, because you will soon find out. Now, you keep playing with me or you keep playing with us, you know what I mean? You're going to find out, because, like I said, he will bring you, not you, but your enemies. He'll bring all of them to their knees, man. I'm telling you, one by one, or he'll lasso all of them at one time. You know what I mean? Lasso all of them, every last one of them, man. Right? Now, instead of seeking vengeance, allow God to bring justice. Romans 12:19 says, vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. Number 5, declare victory in Christ. Jesus already won the victory over sin, death, and evil. Colossians 2:15. Declare, no enemy can defeat me, because God is with me. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? No enemy can defeat me because God is with me. Now, these are my final thoughts. Victory through God's power. Psalm 27:2 is a powerful reminder that no matter what enemies, struggles, or battles we face, God is our defender. Those who rise against us is ultimately stumble and fall, or will ultimately stumble and fall. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, remember this. Remember these few things. God's protection is greater than any attack. No enemy can defeat a child of God. Faith in God's promises brings victory. May these verses encourage you to stand strong in faith, knowing that God fights for you. So, what are your thoughts? Have you ever experienced God making your enemies stumble and fall? How does these verses encourage you in your personal battles? Let me know in the comments, all right? Please let me know in the comments. Now, with that being said, there's something else that I'd like to share with you. Okay? I hope that you are enjoying thus far. There's something else that I'd like to share with you, as I mentioned before, or just mentioned. Excuse me. Now, let's get into it. Ancient truths of enemies conquered by God, divine victories in the Bible. Throughout history, the Bible records numerous instances where God conquered the enemies of his people. These victories reveal powerful spiritual truths that still apply today, whether through miraculous intervention, divine strategy, or supernatural deliverance. These events remind us that no enemy can stand against God's power. Believe that. In this live, we'll explore biblical examples of enemies defeated by God, spiritual lessons from these victories, how to apply these truths to modern life, Bible verses about overcoming enemies. Number one, the Egyptian army defeated at the Red Sea. Very popular story. The story of Exodus 14, 1 through 31. The Egyptians enslaved the Israelites for over 400 years. When God sent Moses to lead his people to freedom, Pharaoh resisted. After experiencing 10 plagues, Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go. However, he quickly changed his mind and pursued them with his mighty army. Ain't that something? Now, what was the miracle and this, or his pursuit, his halt pursuit of the Israelites bring? The miracle. At the Red Sea, the Israelites seemed trapped, but God commanded Moses to stretch out his staff. The sea parted, allowing the Israelites to walk through on dry ground. When the Egyptians followed, God caused the waters to collapse, drowning Pharaoh's army. Now, what do we get from this? It being partially the spiritual lesson. Okay, allow me to give it to you. The spiritual lesson: no enemy is too powerful for God to defeat. Do you hear that? No enemy is too powerful for God to defeat. Y'all better pay attention. Now, even when the situation seems hopeless, what does God do? When the situation seems hopeless, what does God do? He makes way. He makes a way. Exodus 14:14. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. It ain't easy to do. I'm telling you, it comes with maturity and spiritual growth. Man, listen, I'm gonna tell you something now. That's a battle within itself because you fighting with self at the same time. Ain't nothing easy about it. Holding your peace when you know you can say something to hurt some feelings, or you know you can get there and you ain't scared. You know what I mean? You know you can lay hands, and you ain't talking about no spiritual hands when somebody done ticked you off or done pissed you off. You know what I mean? When you know you can do some damage. You know what I mean? But to hold your peace, you know, it's a greater version of self. It's a better version of you. It looks very well. It looks very good on you. It doesn't mean that you're weak. You know what I mean? It does not mean that you are weak. It does not mean that you can't stand up for yourself. It does not mean that you can't fend for yourself. You just chose the higher road because you are so much better than that. And if you really want to hurt, if you really, 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 really want to hurt somebody's feelings, that's doing everything they can intentionally to get a rise out of you, or to get a verbal response out of you in a way that it's chaotic. You know what I mean? And some people get off on it because it's an energetic thing. It's an energetic thing. You know what I'm saying? Some people love to fuss. Some people love to argue because that's all they know. And sometimes people feel like that is love. They don't love me. They don't care about me unless they argue with me. You know what I'm saying? Unless they argue with me. And for no other reason. No other reason. They not interested in me. They don't like me. I got to get their attention. You know what I mean? Or they just too cool. They just too laid back. I don't like it. Some people just naturally love chaos, man. But that's not your role. That's not who you are as a person. And after so many years of personal growth and development, you learn that controversy, although it sells, but you realize that confusion isn't the route for you because you never got the results that you truly desired by warring with somebody or arguing, being confrontational. And besides me, me myself personally being a man, I don't feel the need to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a man, I'm standing on my square. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna let you get me off my square like that. And if I do, I surrender all of my power, all of my control, of self. It has absolutely nothing to do with another person or another individual. But then again, it does if I allow them to knock me off my square. I let them control me. Now I'm in an uproar. I'm upset. Blood pressure done went up. You know what I'm saying? Heartbeat increase, an increase of my heart rate. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you gave them that kind of control, man. You know, so it's good to keep your peace because that's what God wants for you. That's what the Most High wants for you. Let Him fight your battles. You know what I mean? He'll fight for you. Believe that. And most people don't believe that. I'm not saying most people, but you have some people out there that actually feel that every time somebody say something to you, and it's a growth thing as well. You still got to grow out of it. Every time somebody say something, they feel like they gotta, you know what I mean, prove a point. You know what I mean? Gotta prove a point and want to get violent and you know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Come on, man. Ain't nothing like a plane of peace being on your own plane. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing like having a peace of mind, man. You know? And after so many years, I finally realized truly what it means. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. I used to be like, man, what is they talking about? What are they talking about? Don't sweat the small. That's part of it. Small stuff. Small, and what's crazy is smaller things always have the biggest impact. After everything is settled, you know what I mean? It has the largest impact. Something so simple, something so small, turn into a huge ordeal. Something so simple, man. But like I said, some people, man, they are accustomed to living life or living their lives in chaos, you know? And that's just who they are naturally, you know? And I learned not to take things so personally, because sometimes this might be all this person or all these people, they might just be accustomed to a way of life, that way of life particularly. You know what I'm saying? Everybody don't grow up or everybody ain't raised like you. Everybody wasn't raised like you, and some people are at different places, you know, in the journey, far as like their life. You know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't in the same space that you are. And sometimes, although we don't want to understand it, you just gotta take it for what it is, you know? You gotta take it for what it is. Now, if you come off your throne, you know what I mean? You come off your throne and go down in the valley where they at, you know what I'm saying, trying to prove you've worked your way or you've managed to work your way up out of the valley. You know what I'm saying? You on the mountaintop, but you finna come off your throne, you finna come off the mountain peak and go down in the valley where the rest of them at because you feel like you got something to prove. They know what time it is. They know where you are in your life. You know what I'm saying? And it's their responsibility to try you because that's where they want to be. You know what I mean? They want to grow. They want to grow, but they don't want to go through the process of that growth. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to take on the responsibility that it takes to get there. So if they could get you to come off that mountain or to come off that mountain peak and come down into the valley just to confront them, when you come down there, you ain't going back up. You know what I'm saying? You come down in that valley if you want to, some place that you done been. You know what I mean? You come down in that valley from off that mountaintop. You know what I mean? You ain't going back up that mountain, man. You ain't going back up there. They trying to swap it out with you. That's what they trying to do. They don't want to do the work. It's much easier for them to try to piss you off. You know what I mean? For them to piss you off and you be hollering and screaming and yelling and acting a donkey. You know what I'm saying? It's much easier for them to nitpick and really piss you off. You know what I mean? And they get the satisfaction and they still in the valley. They just got satisfaction because they felt like, well, hey, I got him to react just the way I wanted him to. Know what I mean? Now you done lost everything you worked so hard for. You just gave away freely. You know what I mean? Now you right back where they at. You know what I'm saying? You right back where they are. And all of it can change, man, within a split second. One day you're here, the next day you've been reduced. You know what I mean? You've been reduced to the lowest form, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you surrendered your power, man. It's your power, nobody else's, man. You earned it. Nobody gave you. I mean, they gave you hell to get there. You know what I mean? But it was much needed. It was much needed. You wouldn't be who you are right now on a personal level if they hadn't done the things that they did to torment you, etc. You know what I'm saying? So now Exodus 14:14, the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Number two, Jericho, walls brought down by faith. The story of Joshua 6:127. When Joshua led the Israelites into the promised land, Jericho was their first obstacle. This heavily fortified city had massive walls, making it seem impossible to conquer. What was the miracle? God commanded Joshua and the Israelites to march around the city for 7 days. On the seventh day, number being a number of completion, they shouted and the walls collapsed. Israel then took the city with ease. Spiritual lesson: faith and obedience bring victory. God's strategies often defy human logic. Hebrews 11:30. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days, a number of completion. Number three, Gideon versus the Midianites, victory with 300 men. The story, Judges 7:1 through 25. The Midianites oppressed Israel. A God chosen Gideon, or God chose Gideon to lead an army against them. However, God reduced Gideon's troops from 32,000 to just 300 men. Ain't that something? How did he do that? How did he do that? God reduced Gideon's troops from 32,000 to just 300 men, ensuring that the victory would be credited to him alone. Come on now. Excuse me. Come on now. Ensuring that the victory would be credited to him alone. Now, what was the miracle of all of this? What was the miracle of all of this, right? The miracle of all of this was Gideon's small army attacked at night using trumpets, torches, and clay jars to create confusion. The Midianites turned on each other, and Israel won the battle without even using swords. Ain't that something? That's what's happening right now, man. That's what's happening right now. You hear me? Rather you watching YouTube, television, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things, just like with the music industry, man. There's a lot of things, man, that's recently been going on, man. And they say pressure bust pipes. You know what I'm saying? They say pressure bust pipes, man. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna tell you something about that. People can say whatever they want to say. You can live a particular lifestyle, but can you commit to that? When things are good, are they truly good? Or will you collapse when you see what you're facing in the end? It's good to, it's cool when everything is all, when everything is flowing the way that you want everything to flow, and you making, remarkable or large amounts of money, and etc. You know what I'm saying? But when crap hit the fan, you know, don't nobody want no pause of that. You see what I'm saying? Don't nobody want no pause of that. I'm rich. I ain't supposed to be in jail. I'm rich. I ain't supposed to be by, fighting no court cases, and this and that. You know what I mean? Now, what happens? This is what I'm saying. What happens when you can't buy yourself out of trouble no more? Know what I mean? What happens when people say this payment is insufficient? We don't want your money. We tired of you. We tired of you. We just want you to go away. You know what I'm saying? We've been covering for you for far too long, and you just getting out of hand. We don't want we don't want no pause or nothing that you got going on. You know what I'm saying? What happens when they say, "Well, man, we've been covering for you. We've been trying to cover your trails and cover your tracks and this and that." You know, uh, uh, now you putting us in a bad spot. So we got to do something about you because now you think you above the law, and I ain't finna get jammed up fooling with you. What happens then when your money or when your paper or when your success or when your wealth can't buy you out of trouble? Can't get you out of trouble this time. A consistent cycle, a repetitive cycle. What happened? They turn against each other, man. They turn against each other. Everybody game. Everybody with it. Everybody with the play. This is life for us. This is what we do. We have this kind of power and we have this kind of control. This what happens now when allegations and court cases and court proceedings, you know what I mean? You standing in the face of all of this, but you don't want to stand up to it. I'm rich. I ain't supposed to be here. Shoot, I tell you what, I ain't going down by myself. I'm gonna give you this one. What kind of deal can you work out? They could talk about me much as they want to. I'm rich. I ain't gonna be here. They could talk about me as much as they damn want to, or don't. You know what I mean? Excuse me, but they could talk about me much as they want. But I ain't finna be here. I'm gonna give you this one. I'm gonna give you that one. Oh, they make it seem like I had parts of, or I had parts in this thing by myself. Oh no, it ain't going like that. You know what I mean? I'm screaming. They could, just like I said, they could talk about me like they want. They could talk about me. I don't care. I ain't gonna be here by myself. That's what happened, man. When the plot was towards you, and when the enemies, your enemies, came up against you, bloodthirsty men, they came up or they come up against you in efforts to destroy you, right? And then God put them on full blast. They won't leave him alone. They won't leave her alone. Okay, this is what's going. This gonna put the nail in the coffin right here. They won't leave. They keep on doing this and they keep on doing that, and you know what I mean. They think they above me. You know what I mean. I ain't got no place in their life anyway. You know what I'm saying? But they keep messing. They keep messing with my children. They keep messing with my child, thinking, thinking that I'm gonna bless they mess. Now they quarreling amongst each other. Telling you, man, it's real. It is real. And they did it. They did it without even using swords, man. They took each other out. You see that? Genocide. They took each other out, man. Right? Now, the spiritual lesson. God doesn't need large numbers to bring victory. Just like the scripture says also, when there's one or two present in my name, you know what I mean? The presence of the Lord is there. Just a handful. He there. You know what I mean? He's there. God doesn't need large numbers to bring victory. Trusting God, not human strength. But many do. They believe in human strength. Human strength is good, but it just ain't enough. Zechariah 4:6, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. Excuse me. Number four, David versus Goliath, another popular biblical story in the Bible. The story 1 Samuel or first Samuel 17, 1 through 51. The Philistine giant Goliath terrorized Israel. No one dared to fight him except David, a young shepherd. The miracle. Armed only with a sling and 5 stones, David struck Goliath in the forehead, causing him to fall. David then cut off his head, bringing him or bringing victory to Israel. Excuse me. Ain't that something? Knocked him out with a sling, had five stones, a sling, and brought him to his knees, and then beheaded him. A giant now. How many giants do you have in your life? Or how many giants have you slain? Right? Now, the spiritual lesson. No enemy, once again, no enemy is too big when you have faith in God. Victory comes through God's strength, not our own. 1 Samuel 17:47. The battle is the Lord's. There's an old popular song or familiar song saying that the battle is not yours, it's the Lord. I believe that's Yolanda Adams too. The battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. I think it is. There'll be no sadness. Yeah, that's an old one. I haven't heard that one in years. Okay. Number five, King Jehoshaphat, winning through worship. The story, Second Chronicles 21 through 30. A vast army came against King Jehoshaphat of Judah. Instead of preparing for war, he and his people fasted and prayed. What was the miracle in this story? God told them to put singers at the front of the army to praise him. Come on now. Come on now. Say what? What? Man, we in trouble, man. This, you know what I mean? He tripping. He tripping. Now ain't the time for no singing, unless of course it's a war cry. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Now we going to war, man. Now ain't the time for no talent show, God. You know what I mean? We in trouble. Now ain't the time for no talent show, man. You know what I'm saying? So but you know what I mean? God told them to put singers at the front of the army to praise him. Now check this out. As they worshiped, the enemy armies turned against each other, and Judah won without lifting a sword. Just like I mentioned a second ago. And people actually think that God doesn't work in a way of mysteriousness as this that I just explained to you or I just detailed to you. I'm going to tell you something. Your God has a way of dealing with your enemy in a way that you would never have the capability of dealing with that enemy on your own. And guess what? He'll use them in a way to get the glory, to get everything that it is you need. He'll use your enemy, man. He'll use the hand of the enemy to get just what it is he need to get to you. And you not even know why. You like, man, it just don't make sense to me. It makes sense to God. It ain't got to make sense to you. Hmm? It makes sense to the most high God. It doesn't have to make sense to you, right? Now, what was the spiritual lesson in all of this? In all of this, what was the spiritual lesson? Praise and worship are powerful, powerful weapons against the enemy. Trust God even when the battle seems impossible. Second Chronicles 20:15. Be not afraid nor dismayed, for the battle is not yours, but God's. The Assyrian army destroyed by an angel. The story, Second Kings 19:32 through 37. King Hezekiah faced 185,000 Assyrian soldiers ready to attack Jerusalem. Instead of surrendering, he prayed to God for help. Now, what was the miracle that occurred during this particular event? That night, an angel of the Lord, that night, an angel of the Lord struck down all 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. When the survivors awoke, they found their army destroyed. What was the spiritual lesson? God can fight battles for us in supernatural ways. Just like I said, prayer is the most powerful weapon. Isaiah 37:35. For I will defend this city to save it for mine own sake. Number 7, Haman's plot against the Jews, defeated by divine reversal. The story of Esther, or the story, Esther 3 through 9. Haman, a high ranking official, plotted to kill all the Jews in Persia. However, Queen Esther, a Jewish woman, risked her life by approaching the king to plead for her people. What was the miracle? The king reversed Haman's decree, and instead of the Jews being killed, Haman was executed on the very gallows he built for for Mordecai. Ain't that something now? The same trap they set for you, they themselves are snared by that very snare that they created for you, right? And it happens, man. I'm telling you, stuff like this happens, man. And like I said, when you think that God isn't working, or you think that the Most High God isn't working in your behalf, oh, yeah, his pursuit in getting justice for you is supernatural. Therefore, the blessing is supernatural also. It's all supernatural, man. I'm telling you. Spiritual lesson. God can turn evil plans against the enemy. When you stand for God, he stands for you. Proverbs 26:27. Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein. Proverbs 26:27. Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein. Right? How these ancient truths apply today. These victories show us how God continues to fight for his people. Here's how to apply these lessons to modern life. Trust in God's protection. No matter how powerful your enemies seem, God is greater. And I always say that. Always say that God is the greatest. Psalm 91:7. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand. I mentioned that one earlier. Obey God's instructions. Victory often comes through faith and obedience, not human logic. Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Number three, use prayer and worship as weapons. You better. Praise and prayer bring supernatural breakthroughs. Philippians 4:6. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your quests be made known unto God. Number four, believe in divine reversals. Just like Haman's defeat, God can turn the enemy's plans against them. Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good or for good to them that love God or love the Lord. You know what I mean? Now that's a good one. All things, not some things, but all things work together for good to them that love God. Final thoughts. Victory belongs to the Lord. The ancient truths of God's victories over enemies remind us that no force is greater than God. Faith, prayer, and obedience lead to victory. God is still fighting battles for his people today. If you're facing spiritual warfare, personal struggles, or opposition, remember that God is on your side. Just as he defeated Pharaoh, Goliath, and the Assyrians, he will and he shall defend you. Now, what battles are you facing today? Let me know in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed. This is Awesome Will here. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the live. It'll be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching, and until next time, enjoy.